Hi, I'm Paul, and welcome to the Untold Civil War. Now, today we're going to be talking about some untold Civil War curiosities that have just come into the shop. Now, I'm no expert. This is a great adventure for me. I consider this a learning experience. And so I know some of you on YouTube are watching and you guys have a wealth of knowledge. So please, if I miss something out, go ahead, comment in the comment section below. I will read the comments. I love to learn. Let's help everybody out. Let's teach each other. Now, speaking about education, learning, and furthering our knowledge on the hobby, let's talk about some resources I like to use. Now, number one is going to be Military Images Magazine, my favorite magazine by far. Military Images Magazine is not only a sponsor of the show, but Ron Coddington, the editor, is a good personal friend of mine. And as you can see, the magazine itself, not only does it look great, but there are so many great articles within. You can learn about the backdrops of different images. You can learn about how to identify the photographers of certain images. You can even learn about how to spot fakes. And in this particular edition, if you purchase this specific edition online, you might even find an interview with yours truly. So much stuff there. I might be biased for this edition, but it was great to be actually invited to do an interview for Military Images Magazine and be invited to be featured in here. So please go ahead, use the link in the description to support this magazine and use it to help you do research when you are furthering your experience in the hobby and your knowledge in the hobby of collecting Civil War relics. Some other literature, if you will, that I use to educate myself is this quick read. Introduction to Civil War Photography by Ross J. Kelbaugh. I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly. I'd like to say this is a real nice, quick read. It's very easy to navigate through, very easy to just open up and start anywhere. And it talks about, the steps and processes, for example, to produce a carte de visite. It talks about the specific photographers. It talks about how to identify an ambrotype and what exactly is a 16th plate, a 9th plate, a 6th plate, quarter plate. These are all things that you've heard said in the hobby. Now you can learn what exactly they mean. There's even in the back a collector's guide, which is great, and it sort of describes some things that are considered more valuable or more rare. I know that can be relative, but generally speaking, what is considered more valuable or rare in the collector's market? Some things such as, he mentions uniforms, unique uniforms are considered quite valuable or quite desirable. Also rare firearms that are featured in images or being worn by the subjects in those images tend to be desirable. So as we go through the new products that I have in, the new curiosities, if you will, let's see if we can find any rare weapons or rare uniform items. Maybe we have something that is considered by Mr. Ross here to be desirable. All right, well, first up, we have a small image, and of course I will try to take a picture and post it so that you can see it a little bit better. But this is an image of a member of the 34th Indiana. These were Zouaves from the West. So if you thought Zouaves were only in the East, that is not true. There were Zouaves in the West. And as you can see, the image is not in the best of quality, but sometimes content is greater than quality here. And this is one of those images. Here you actually have a Zouave wearing his Zouave jacket from the West. These guys were named Morton's Rifles after the governor of Indiana. Supposedly, they were undefeated on the battlefield until the very last battle of the Civil War on land at Palmito Ranch. And that is actually where the Confederates did defeat the Union. There is some debate. The Union commander stated that the reason he had to fall back was because Imperial Mexican cavalry and French troops showed up on the border, forcing him to fall back. This, of course, happened in Texas. Is that true? I don't know. I know that Rip Ford's diary does describe a French artillery gun team joining him in the final battle, coming across the river and joining him in the final battle there in Texas. So who knows? Maybe the Zouaves had to eat some French artillery. Here's an image of one of those Zouaves. What a great piece to have. Wow, we're on a roll today because speaking of unique uniforms, I've got not one, but two images, as you can see, of members of the 3rd New Jersey Cavalry. Now, as I recall, I believe, and someone will probably correct me, they joined the war a little bit late in the game, but they designed their uniforms after the famous Hussars. Now, just like there was a Zouave craze, Hussars were another craze that was going around for the cavalry. They were first, I believe, used by Hungary, and then eventually gained fame in the Austrian army, and eventually would be known for their heroics in the Light Brigade during the Crimean War, the Charge of the Light Brigade, Lord Cardigan, right? And the 11th Hussars, I believe. So that renown came to the United States, and of course, they wanted to mimic that, and they wanted to carry on that esprit de corps, and that's what you have, the 3rd New Jersey Cavalry, which would eventually also be called the Butterflies due to their very extravagant uniforms. Now, I don't know, so far I'm going through this and, I don't know if I can really sell these. Of course, proceeds do go to supporting the show, but I mean, this is the problem when you're trying to sell things that you also really do love and collect, right? This is tough stuff. All right, so up next, these are some interesting images. So up here, this is a post-war image. And that, if you look closely, we've talked about this before, as a post-war image, this is a hospital steward. And you can see that because we've talked about this before, the stripes, the insignia, I should say, on his sleeve, they are not service stripes, they are not rank, he's not private first class or a sergeant or a corporal. That is the insignia worn by a hospital steward. These were sort of the head nurses of their day, the medics of their day. And this is a post-war image. Post-war images tend to be a little bit cheaper, but no less fascinating, no less interesting. This is the era of John Wayne and the cavalry, right? So one of my favorite Westerns is Fort Apache. And so this is a great image that harkens back to that era. Here's another great image of a Union officer. He is not ID'd, so we don't know what regiment he belonged to. Maybe if you examine the image, you can comment below if you think that you can see some clues about what state he's probably representing. However, I do know he's a Union officer. And images like this, because they're not ID'd, because it's not a unique uniform, because there is no unique revolver, tucked into his belt, it's pretty much run-of-the-mill. They tend to be a little more cheap. That being said, this is the type of image I would say that every collector should have in their collection. One, it's a great entry-level piece, if you will, but also, if all you do is collect unique images, well then, people are going to look at your collection, people who might not know anything about the Civil War, look at your collection and think, wow, so everyone in the Civil War wore a unique uniform. There were a lot of unique uniforms, but they were unique for a reason. This is the type of image that actually shows what the majority of Union officers look like. If you're not a collector of images, if you collect relics and you just want an image just to kind of put that icing on the cake and finalize that perfect collection you have, this is the type of image you want. The image that says it all and represents all Union officers, all Union infantry officers. Okay, so great entry-level piece, great gift for somebody. Oh, this is a great image. Talking about backdrops a little bit earlier, it's always fun to see images with very unique backdrops. This is a great image with a great backdrop, as you can see. And I'm going to call him the Rambo of the Civil War here, because he's actually resting his foot on a live artillery shell, and at the bottom, it says, "Who cares? I don't, boots." Now, I'm not sure exactly what he's talking about. I'm sure he's mentioning that his boots are on a live artillery shell. So here's a daring fellow, and this image, if you look at the back, says City Point, Virginia. So this was a major supply depot for the Union Army during the Overland Campaign. And so it is not hard to believe that photographers flocked to this location where there would be a lot of soldiers encamped and be offering their services to make an extra dollar. So as you can see, the backdrop is a beautiful camp scene. You can see there's a Union sentry in the background and a tent and an unmistakable artillery shell at his feet. If you want Rambo, I'm telling you, this is a great, unique image that you should have in your collection. Maybe if you're a collector of artillery pieces, this is a fun thing to have in your collection. Let's see, moving on. Okay, so here's an image we just got as well. Another Union officer. Now, first of all, you might look at that and say, well, it's not ID'd. It looks like the other one, pretty run-of-the-mill, except I'm not sure if the camera catches it, but he might not be carrying a unique revolver or a unique rifle. But to me, that looks like an engraved sword. And that's pretty unique. And that's why I think the sword is specifically not in the scabbard. He took his sword out of the scabbard to display it for this image to show the engraving on it. Officers were very proud of their swords, and many of them purchased their swords from very famous makers. As we know, Robert Gould Shaw, as I mentioned in an episode before on the podcast about unique weapons, I'll put a link in the description to that episode if you want to listen to that. Robert Gould Shaw carried a sword made by Henry Wilkinson, I believe, of England, famous sword maker. A lot of other swords were purchased and brought in and imported in from Solingen, Germany, Solingen, Prussia at the time. Swords were purchased from the famous Tiffany's, right? So many officers had many different types of swords. There are very many Confederate swords that are known. One of my favorite type of swords that the Confederacy was known to use had wooden scabbards. I believe those were made in South Carolina. So that's really cool to me. South Carolina and Georgia, I believe. So that's really cool to me. Swords are really unique during the Civil War. It's fun to kind of look at them. Some people carried swords that belonged to their fathers or grandfathers in the Revolutionary War. So this sword with this engraving, you know that this officer was very proud of his saber. All right, moving on. Here's another post-war image. Like I say, post-war images tend to be a little less expensive, a little cheaper, as you can see. Hopefully that glare doesn't get you too much. But this is a classic GAR image. As a former veteran of the Civil War in his full GAR getup, but what's really unique is that he is ready for the charge. He's got his sword drawn, and he's showing that age has not slowed him down one bit, which is great. So definitely check that out. That's a great image to have just in your collection to represent the veterans of the GAR, Grand Army of the Republic. Here we go. We're going back to unique uniforms. Check this out. That hat is, in fact, ugly as the devil. Yes, so, when I saw this hat, I wasn't sure what to think of it, so I had to go back to Military Images magazine. I had to message a friend of mine and another expert in his craft, Ron Field, who has been studying Civil War uniforms for a very long time. He's really the godfather of Civil War uniforms, if you will. Hopefully we can get him back on the show. I've been reaching out, so we'll see. But I had to reach out and ask him, what the heck is this on this gentleman's head? And this is, I believe, the Puritan and Ham hat. It was issued to New Hampshire soldiers, and it was just a horrible looking design. In fact, it was featured in Ron Field's article in Military Images magazine called Ugly as the Devil, right? And so the hat, I think the design was made so that it could keep the rain off of soldiers. If they're marching in the rain, that rain was effectively kept off the back of their necks, running down their shirt. However, a lot of the soldiers complained that they were very hot to wear in the summer. And if I can just look up the exact quote for you, here's a quote from a soldier that mentioned just exactly how he felt about the hat. And he said that the Puritan and Ham hat was not a thing of beauty by any means. So I think that's funny. these hats, these images are sort of rare because, you know, the soldiers pretty much dumped them the soonest chance they got. So it's very cool to find one of these images and to offer it up for anyone who's interested in something like that. Now we're getting into some hard images. Here we have a really cool image. I haven't seen this before. So usually I have seen Union soldiers wearing a Corps badge. I've seen Union soldiers wearing an ID disc. But how many times have you seen a Union soldier wearing both? Now hopefully it comes out on here, but you can see that he does have a Corps badge and he does have his Civil War ID disc. That's very neat, okay? Now, if you are interested in ID discs and Corps badges, hey, pick up this image, message me. If collecting images is not your thing though, check out our sponsor, the Badge Maker, because he can reproduce all sorts of Corps badges and ID discs, and these are great things for if you're a reenactor and you want to upgrade your impression, or if you want to pay tribute to an ancestor, why not get a Civil War ID disc with his name on it? So definitely check out the Badge Maker and check this image out on our website under the Untold Civil War Curiosities tab. All right, we are down to the last image here. Let's see what we've got. Okay, it's a nice hard image in a case. Here you go. Wow, that is very interesting. So again, here's an image where we talk about quality. Okay, it has seen some years. Now, who am I to look at an image and say, wow, that is not quality when I am not over 100 years old, okay? Hey, if I was over 100 years old, I would be happy to still look like this, okay? But that being said, check this out. These are Union soldiers playing cards. That is really cool because that just gives you an insight into the life of Civil War soldiers. And I wonder, how rare is it to see images of Civil War soldiers playing cards? I have seen them before, but I do think about it because we have heard stories of soldiers before they go into battle tossing the pack of cards out of their knapsack because they did not want their property being sent home and mama looking through it and saying, oh my goodness, he went off to war and he played cards. The sinfulness, this sort of innocence of soldiers back then too. But as you can see, they did play cards. It was a way to pass the time. And in this image, you get to see soldiers playing cards and get a direct inside look into the life of Civil War soldiers. So that's also going to be offered on the website. So please go ahead, check out the website. I'll leave a link in the description to check out these images on my website. You can purchase them directly from my website. However, hey, if you're looking at those prices and they're a little bit expensive, go ahead and email me. I always love to negotiate. I always love to trade. One thing I'll tell you this, if you have any images of the 79th New York Highlanders, kilted Scottish soldiers of the Civil War, please let me know. These are the type of images that I like, I collect, and probably we will make a deal. I will find a deal for you. So let me know. Finally, couple last things is, hey, if you like these images, you didn't see anything you like, I will direct you towards the Excelsior Brigade. Okay, they have been in the business far longer than I. They're sponsors of the show, and they have a really nice collection of Civil War relics, artifacts, and images. And they specialize in groupings as well as, and when I say groupings, by the way, I mean collections of images with the ID'd images, with the letters, with the Civil War Corps badge and ID disc, you name it. There's just some amazing stuff there. And they do specialize in ID'd images of Union soldiers. So, if you want to purchase an image that actually has a story with it, they're the people to go to. Please check them out in the link. We've also got Civil War trails down there. If you want to know about these soldiers and what they did and how they did it and where they did it, and you want to walk in their footsteps, Civil War Trails is marking the way for you. So please check out their website when you're planning your next family vacation so that when you go out there, you'll know all the untold Civil War sites in your area to visit. Again, so many sponsors, and I got to mention them all because they're all so great. 1863 Designs, thank you so much for sponsoring the show. These are the leading graphic design experts in the Civil War community. If you have a Civil War business, a Civil War event coming up, a Civil War project, and you need some sort of logo design, sticker design, t-shirt design, banner design, they're the ones to go to. I'm currently working with them to do some stickers and some sort of giveaway, so stay tuned for that. And finally, after this, I hope you enjoyed this episode. I'm tired of talking, so I'm going to crash on the couch and put on HistoryFix, another sponsor of the show. They've got so much history content on their streaming service. It is the Netflix / Amazon Prime for history nerds. And what the cool thing is that a lot of what they do, a lot of the money that they raise through subscription services, they push directly to the producers of content. So you're truly supporting those guys who are big history buffs, just like you and me, who are trying to put content out there. So check out HistoryFix as well. I'm going to sit down and watch a documentary right after this from HistoryFix. So there's that. And let's see, last but not least, I know this was Untold Civil War Curiosities, but every now and then, we're history buffs, right? I'm willing to accept some other wars and memorabilia to sneak in here. So also going up on the website is this wild bayonet. This is a German bayonet from World War I. It was nicknamed the Butcher Bayonet. And there's a reason for it, right? I mean, look at that blade. It's a monster of a blade. It's a monster of a bayonet. I believe when they first came out, they had sawbacks, and you can find a few of those left hanging around. They got rid of the sawback due to the rules of war, I believe, being maybe they were too deadly, who knows. There are many other experts who I'm sure will leave in the description or leave in the comments the true story, so stay tuned for that. But this is definitely going up on the site. If you're interested in collecting a World War I German bayonet, we've got one. So all proceeds go to supporting the show. Thank you so much to listening to this episode, and I hope you stay tuned in for the next one. And please go check out our audio episodes on the podcast, because those are where I do a lot of my interviews and interview a lot of experts in the field, and you're not going to want to miss that out. So if you're only watching the YouTube videos and not listening to the podcast, you're only getting 50% of Untold Civil War. So there's so much more out there. Thank you so much for the support, and please sign up on Patreon to become a patron, and you will be entered for the upcoming raffle, which will be for the book A Rebellious Woman, as well as a Civil War Confederate war bond token / note. So the drawing will be at Remembrance Day in Gettysburg. So if you become a patron, the link will be in the description. You will be in the running for that. So if you don't want to purchase anything, become a patron and you could win something. And I'm going to have more and more raffles coming out with bigger and better prizes. So please, it behooves you to become a patron. And I thank all my patrons who are already supporting the show. Thank you, and bye for now.